Hey everybody. Let's see here. I'm getting set up so that I can read chat on my big screen while live streaming on this one. So there we go. Okay. Now I can see my chat without having to mess with my screen over here. So kind of a short impromptu live stream here, but I was going to be out here throwing a large coil pot, and I thought I would go ahead and do a impromptu live stream to do the to throw this. I threw one. I have a commission for a large coil pot. I threw one a couple days ago, and it's a little bit smaller than it needs to be, so I decided to go ahead and throw another one after talking to the person that the commission for. They liked the shape and everything that I made for the first one, but they wanted it a little bit bigger. So anyway, all right. Hey Carter, Bob. Hey from St. Louis. Welcome. All right. Let's see. All right, we're going to get started. What I'm going to do first is I've got a large wooden bat here that I'm going to be throwing on. I have I'm going to start with 20 pounds of a thrown section. So I'm going to throw 20 pounds of a base, and then I'm going to start throwing, putting coils on top of that. So I have all the coils already pugged out. I have 4 5-pound clay balls over here already ready. I'm going to center all those. I'm going to throw a base out of that 20 pounds. It's going to be alternating then between torching, and so that's going to be pretty loud, but you'll get to see that process. Torching, adding a coil, throwing that, torching again, adding a coil, throwing that, so on and so forth until I get it all. And who knows, maybe we won't get to the whole piece today, but that would be awesome if I do. But I have done this 1 or 2 other times, and it ended up being a pretty long live stream, and it's already 7:30, so it might be late. So it is spring. Hey Connie, and Daryl. Hey, how you doing? So anyway, let me. I'm gonna back this up a little bit so that you can see the wheel. I guess I'll tilt it down a little bit. There we go. Now you can see the wheel and what's going on down there. All right. What do you do to make sure the clay is consistent in moisture? How consistent does it need to be? Or is that more of a drying concern? In making a large piece, is that what you mean as far as consistent in moisture? If that's what you mean, then it's you can actually get away with a whole lot more of difference in dryness than a lot of people think, especially when throwing a large piece like this. So you'll actually see that the amount that I dry the piece before I add the coil is considerable more. Well, it'll be hard to see on video, but if you were here in person to actually touch how dry the clay gets before I add the coil, it's pretty amazing. So hope that answered your question. You can see this bat I have thrown other large pieces on this one. You can see where I've torched it maybe a bit too much and burnt the plywood bat that I have here. So hey there Sawyer, how you doing? Hey Rebecca. So I'm just going to center this, like I said, I'm going to start out with 20 pounds, but I'm going to center that in 4 or 5 pound clay balls. And I don't really prefer to throw on these plywood bats because of the grain in the wood makes it harder to center because you're working against all that grain as you're trying to center. But they're the thickest bats I have, and for making these large pieces, I like to have a really thick bat to throw them on so that when I do get done and I want to move them, there's a really thick, 3/4 inch bat underneath the pot. Alright, so what I'm going to do to throw this in, or center this in multiple pieces, is I center one piece, I round off the top like that, and then I'll throw the next piece right down on top of that rounded section there. So what I did when I pugged out my clay is I went ahead and actually rounded all my clay balls on the end there. So now I'll just be able to throw this onto that point, and then I've got a rounded this way and a rounded that way, and it pushes out so I don't trap any air while I'm throwing these together. Yeah, Bob, yeah, that actually might not be a bad idea to do that for a few. I probably would still need holes on both sides. The holes wouldn't necessarily have to go all the way through, but I guess you could and make it easier. Because even being 3/4, I probably would still need to flip it from time to time if it started to bow one way or the other. Alright, so that's 10 pounds. I've got another 2 5-pound clay balls over here. I'm going for the third one now. And this clay's probably a little stiffer than I need for this because I'm going to torch it anyway, so I usually like to use softer clay to do this because I know I'm going to torch it and I'm not trying to throw it super thin. When I pugged this clay, I did add a little bit of water to it to soften it up a bit, but still going to throw. This much clay, it gets tough to center. Rebecca. Yeah, if you can make it down, we'll definitely. There'll be a lot going on in Seagrove that week. That day, the 14th, 15th, and 16th is my kiln opening, but it's also a celebration of spring event in Seagrove. I think we have 42 different potters that are taking part in the event. I just posted today about my hours for that weekend. So that should be on Instagram and Facebook. All right. I'm starting to sweat already, but we got one more clay ball to add to this to get to the 20. You're outside of Wilmington. Okay, awesome. Well, that's not too crazy far. Not compared to some people that I have come visit that are from states and states away, so. That 5 pounds looks pretty small compared to the others now. Yeah, there's some people that work with this amount of clay day in and day out. I'm not one of them, but I can do it if I need to. Can't imagine how quickly I would wear myself out trying to do this every day. One good thing about my large pieces that I make is that when I make these really large pieces, I make them with a hole in the bottom because some of them get used as sculptural or as garden pots, and if I put a hole in the bottom, they'll naturally drain so they don't collect water, and that way they won't freeze if you leave them out all year long. At least here in North Carolina, it's fine that way. I have several that I leave out all year round in my house. So going all the way to the wheel or the bat really makes it nice to be able to judge how thick the bottom is. Where my smaller sponge went. Let's see, how hard would it be to laminate the, didn't finish the sentence there, so hard to answer that one. Let's see, how thick do you want it? The bottom on these, I leave the bottom a good ½ inch thick. Maybe even a little more. Got a little bit of a wobble in it from just trying to get it open, but I think I can fix that by the time I get it pulled. Just trying to get a nice even bottom and open up the bottom on the inside there and have a nice flat even bottom there. There we go. Let's see. How hard is it to laminate the plywood bats? Oh, gotcha. I'm not sure. I think that probably would be a possibility. I don't work with them enough that it really bothers me to use them. But usually before I throw on them, I use some sandpaper with some water to kind of help smooth them out. But if I made big pots more often, I might worry about that more. But with how little I make large pieces, I don't worry about it too much. What's a large vessel? Just a large pot. I'm making another one like the one that I put for the thumbnail. Put it that way. A large jug, a large vase, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't sure if you were making a ship. Yeah. How many pulls to get it to height? I'm not sure on this first 20 pounds. Like I said, I'm just starting with this 20, and then I'm going to use a torch to stiffen this, and then start adding coils after that. So I'm definitely not in any kind of a rush and have any kind of like set number of pulls that I want to stay within to do this. Something like this is so, let's see, what do I want to say? It's challenging enough that I don't need any other, any other benchmarks other than let's make sure we get the pot made. It looks the way that I want it to. Not really worried about how much clay I use or how quick I get it done either. Yeah, 70 pounder, I don't know, we'll see. I know I got 20 here at the bottom, and this, you know, if I was wanting to make something out of 20 pounds that was a complete finished piece, I would definitely want to stretch out the clay a bit more than what I'm doing here for this base. But with the base of this, I'm not worried about it being a bit thicker because of how much clay I'm adding above it. It needs to have the strength to hold all that clay up, even though I'm going to torch it. So I'm not too worried about getting this super thin. One of the biggest challenges in making larger pots is getting your mind wrapped around the fact that a pot that's 3 foot tall just has to have thicker walls than a pot that's 1 foot tall. Just physics. It's gotta be able to support the weight. So I got a couple air bubbles in here that are bugging me. And I usually think that it's wide enough to start with, and then when I go to add the first coil and I continue that up, I'm like, ooh, maybe I should have started a little wider. So try to keep that in mind as well as I'm starting out the base here, because whatever I start with, whatever direction or shape that's started by this bottom piece, I usually can't drastically divert from that without throwing off the look of the piece. So plus, as I torch this, it actually draws back in a little bit too because it's starting to dry. So you got to kind of factor that in a little bit also. So like I said, that's not giant for 20 pounds, but it's probably a good start for what I'm doing here. I can give us a measurement. So far we got about 9 inches in height and about a little over 16 in width. So yeah, that's definitely better than the last one I made, because I think the widest part of the last one I made was maybe 17. So all right. won't need the splash pan anymore for the rest of this piece. So just go ahead and take that off and get it out of the way. Let's see. Show of hands, how many people watching this have a kiln that can fit a 3-foot piece? Yeah, can you hear the cricket sound? Wow, that's pretty loud. I probably need to open up my door because it's getting a little hot in here. You'll be able to hear them even more if I do that. Of course, then I might get mosquitoes in here, but might be better than sweating like crazy. All right. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna back this camera up just a little bit. All right, so what I do have is I have this torch here attached to a small propane tank. So this is what I'm going to use to torch it with. I think I bought this at Harbor Freight. I can't remember. These things are kind of tricky because depending on the weather, they can really act up a little bit. And this one, to be honest with you, the coating that was on this part of this one started to burn off the first couple times I used it, and it smelled horrible. And I thought, man, this can't be good for me. So actually, I took the top of this out back and I used my other torch like this, and I burned all the excess coating off of this so that it wouldn't smell so bad and be toxic when I was using it. So, but anyway, I use this to light it because I can just do that, and it's a whole lot easier than using a lighter or any other thing to light this. Happy potting from the North Oregon coast. Wow, yeah, you're pretty far away there, but thank you so much. So I'm definitely getting this like really past leather hard because I want it to be stiff enough that when I add that coil on top, it doesn't give. So I'll do a combination of torching the outside like this, and I'll torch the inside as well. I could fit 4 in my big downdraft kiln. Bring them. I hear you. That's pretty good, Brian. Yeah, depending on how wide they are, I could. I usually make 2 large pots to go in my gas kiln. My wood kiln could hold way more, obviously. But somebody said, "How's Macy?" She's doing really well. Thanks for asking. 28 inches is the max I can fit in my kiln, but I have goals to go bigger. Yeah, Peace, that's good. Yeah, most electric kilns max out between 28 and 31, so. Yeah, it's definitely not a quick process, but unless you're going to throw a 50, 60 pound piece all in one, it's not going to be quick. So, let's see. Watch your posting as much as I can. I've learned so much. Thank you. You're welcome, Don. Will you fire this in your gas or wood kiln? Actually, this is going to be for the gas kiln. I've got the commission that I'm working on, the glaze they want is one I do in my gas kiln. And they want to match another piece they have of mine that was done in my gas kiln. All right, let's see here. Get this back over here so I can see the chat. So if I stop this, you can see that's pretty stiff. Might need to torch that just a little bit more. Aha. Can't wait to hear crickets. Yeah, it's spring has sprung here for sure. I've seen plenty of, saw my first snake today. I've seen plenty of lizards, flies, mosquitoes, all the fun. My plants and big planters are outside now in front of the house. Oh, there's a mosquito. As I said, if I open the door. But if I didn't have it open, I'd be roasting in here, so we'll just have to deal with it. All right, let's see. I got to torch a little bit more, so back that up again. All right, that's probably good. Oops. There goes my small torch. All right, so what I will do is go ahead and shut off the wheel so I don't accidentally hit the pedal also and mess something up. I ran out several different coils that were different lengths and what I'm going to do, and so I've got just under 16 now. Remember what I said? I started out over 16, and just by drying it, I've already lost like close to a ½ inch in width. Anyway, to figure out what length of coil I need or to get close, I'm going to do this. So 16 times 3.14. Pi times the diameter is the circumference of a circle. Time for a screen door, maybe. Hey, Shelly, that is a great idea. Didn't even think of that. Mike, if time was not an issue, is there any benefit to letting it air dry versus torching? I've never done an air dry, so I can't say. I think it'd be trickier to catch it at the right time air drying versus torching. So I think torching, you could probably get it drying more evenly, because air drying, you know, the top's always going to dry before the bottom. So unless you covered it and then just air dried it super, super slow. So I'm sure there are some benefits. That torch is much cooler than the hair dryer I use. Yeah. All right, so 16 times 3.14. 16 times 3 is 48 plus the little bit extra. So I'm going to get one maybe that's about 50 inches. Don't have a calculator on me here handy. I'm using my iPad and my phone to do this. So unless somebody wants to do the math for me real quick. I use a hair dryer too. It works. Yep. So there's 18. 18's 36. 36. That's 46. 36 and 11 is 7. I have a feeling that some of my coils, 50.24, hey, I was really close, wasn't I? I said 50 and some change. Yeah, that one's pretty close. Overlooked a little bit. I should have, my coils are, I have several of them that are going to be, I think, too short, but that's okay. If I have to run out more, I've still got the die on the end of my pug mill. I can do that. So I lay it on there like that. Let's see. This pug is like, shoot, 1.5 inches in thickness. What I do to join this together is I cut the bottom one, and just rip off a little extra there. I cut the bottom one at an angle, and then I cut the top one at the opposite angle to get them to fit together. Not really an exact science, but it works. So then I put the two angles together, and there we go. And then kind of work those two together like that. Kind of get it sitting evenly all the way around. And now what I'm going to do to attach this is I can start on the inside or the outside, and I'm actually just gonna start pushing down, and then rotate the wheel. I'm using my hand on the wheel to rotate it, my hand on the wheel head. And so now I'm just pinching down like this, just to smooth the bottom, or to attach the bottom of this coil to the top of the throne section. And you want to talk about a good forearm workout? By the time I'm done with this, it'll be like, ah. Then for the outside, I do the same thing. I just do it going around the outside out here. Trying to make sure I don't trap any air. But with the top of the throne piece being rounded and this coil being rounded, kind of works on, kind of helps you push out all the air by doing it this way. Speaking of my forearm, whew. All right. Yeah, prefer a heat gun? Yeah, that would definitely work better than a hairdryer. Sorry, I missed that earlier. But now one of the trickiest parts and one of the to doing this is once I get to this point is actually now taking that coil and centering it on top of what's already thrown, and that is really tricky. Takes a lot of steadiness and skill to now take what's already thrown and then to just use enough pressure to kind of force that coil, and that's all I'm focusing on is just this top coil and centering it on top of what is already centered below it. Now I may have knocked that off just slightly while attaching that, but also if that's pliable enough, then then I can kind of work those two together in that process. But now because I can't reach around this pot anymore to get my water bucket, it's sitting on the floor here, but now I'm just going to use my sponge to wet the coil inside, out, and the top, and then I'm going to keep the coil on top to add water if I need to. And now I'm just squeezing together with my left hand, pushing down with my right, I'm really trying to center this clay that I've added with the bottom that's already attached, or with the bottom that's already thrown and centered and thrown. And I hardly ever, I've never made one of these large ones where it's been perfectly centered and like the perfect shape, but it's you gotta just kind of roll with it a little bit, but also try to get it and keep it centered. So there I was just doing a pull by pinching together with this hand, my left hand, and then kind of keeping some down pressure with my right hand there. One of the other really tricky things to make in large pots is that you're working so close to such a large form that it's really hard to see the whole piece unless you get up and step away from the piece. And so multiple times while making a large pot, I will get up, step back away from the pot, and take a look at the shape after I've added a coil and shaped a little bit. using a rib on the inside now to kind of like work on that joint there a little bit where I can kind of smooth out the clay, because there was a little bit of a extra clay there in a bump and I wanted to smooth that over. Have you thought about hanging a mirror on the opposite wall to get a long distance view of the piece while you're throwing? Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. One guy that I found on Instagram that makes some giant pots, I think he has a great technique. I think it's Stephen Proctor. He makes some giant pots, like 5-6 feet tall, huge, like probably in 3-4 feet wide. You know, just giant pieces. What he does is he actually draws out the shape that he wants on a piece of plywood, and then cuts it out like with a jigsaw, and then he mounts that on hinges next to his wheel so that it will come within maybe an inch of the pot. And so while he's throwing, as he adds a coil or as a thrown section, he'll swing that out and it'll come and show the profile. And as long as he stays, like I said, like an inch or two or whatever it is away from that, then he can know if he's on track for the overall shape. That's a pretty ingenious way of making, if you got a very specific shape in mind, that's a pretty neat way to do it, I think. Well, I will have to say, for our first coil, this one went really well, so very happy with this. And the fact that I'm on a live stream while it went well is also encouraging, because I'm thinking to myself before I started this that I thought, well, it's a very real possibility that I could just end up losing whatever I try to make on this live stream, and I just have to be okay with that. So alright, so now there, after one coil, I should have covered these back up. I'm getting dry over there. Where'd my large ruler go? It's up there. All right, after the first coil, we've gone to about 12.5 or 12.25 by a little over 18. So, and now we got to torch this. Got to keep my coils covered over there so they don't dry out. I don't really have to worry about torching the bottom now, because I didn't really add a whole lot of water to this part, but I really need to torch from about where I attached it up to the top, and so just adding, getting this to a similar dryness to what's below it, so that may answer your question from earlier. So not too worried that those will join just fine as far as the dryness of this versus how wet that is, but now getting this to about the similar dryness as this, is good. I'm gonna move this over so I can see chat. All right. You're braver than I. It's looking great. Thank you. I don't know if it's brave or not, but it's definitely. I'm just okay with failure because it's part of it. Also, having made pots for a long time, get a pretty good idea that it's not going to fail, but it is a real possibility. Also, if anybody is planning to stay for a while and wants to keep track, I think those coils, that 1.5-inch coil, I'm pretty sure every inch of it, or every 4 inches, is a pound. So if that coil was 50 inches long, divide that by 4. That's 12. Does that mean it was 12 pounds for that one coil? $12.5, I guess. Do you need a heavier built wheel for this? The Brent does perfectly fine, but yeah, if you're gonna make, I mean, I'm only going to maybe, 50 to 70 pounds total. If you're gonna go to, 200 pounds, maybe even 150, 200 pounds, it might be a good idea to get a heavier duty wheel. I've talked to, I think it's Witchford Pottery. I met him several years ago in England. Well, I didn't meet him in England, but he's from England. And he had wheels specially made to do large pots on because of how heavy they were. So, let's see, what's the thickness of the pot after the coil is formed? It's all about the thickness of that rim there, so I try to keep it all, it's all probably 3/8 to a 1/2 inch thick. Yeah, Witchford does amazing work, you're right, yeah. Yeah, they make some giant pieces. And recreations of all kinds of stuff, so. Yeah, when he visited America, golly, 5-6 years ago, I met him. I'm trying to remember his name now, but it's the son of the guy who started it. But Adam, I think maybe. So my goal is to try to keep the same thickness in the wall all the way up, in order so that as it dries, you don't get a bumpiness to the wall as it dries unevenly. So there's a Witchford video where he threw a bottom about as big as you have there, and my eye through the top. It fit perfectly. Yeah, it's crazy. Hey Corey, hope you're doing well. I was gonna say good to see you too, but all I see is your name, but yeah. I'm doing good, and I hope you are. Yeah. Your brother actually might finally come back out here and help me. I've got well, earlier this year I started a project of a fast fire updraft wood kiln, and made out of an old electric kiln. I've got to do some adjustments, move it outside, and make the fireboxes bigger. But he said he's really interested in coming and help me fire it, so he needs to do something. I haven't seen him in a long time. How long would this take without the torch for each coil? Oh my goodness. I mean, if I had to add the coil and then just let it air dry, it's really hard to tell how long it would take. That's hot. Well, you think about air drying to the point that it's that stiff. How long does that take? Quite a while. I mean, obviously, it would depend on the weather, depending on the humidity and all that kind of stuff. So. All right. Now we have 18 times 3.14. It's probably going to take my biggest coil I have, and I might even have to start splicing two coils together to do this as they get wider and wider, because I don't know if I made any long enough. That's 54 and some change, so probably 56. So. Let's see. 18 is 36, and 18 is 54. See if this one is long enough. It is. Okay. A little off back there, but all right. Bring y'all closer again now. I always like to turn the wheel off as I do something like this, because I don't ever want to accidentally hit the pedal and send this flying. It'd make for a funny video, but it would not make for a fun time trying to make a pot. So I think I have two coils that are a little bit longer than this one, and then after that I'll probably have to either plug some new ones or piece a couple of them together. So let's see, how tall are you aiming for? They want the piece to finish between 30 and 36 inches. So if I reach somewhere close to 40, it'd be great. That's pretty big. The last one I made, I think, was 29, and it's going to shrink down to about 25. So I think about 12.5% shrinkage. Maybe just say 13 just to be safe. So what's 39 times 0.13? Let's see. Is that the standard stoneware clay you use? Added grog? No, I haven't added any grog. This is Hestia from High Water. Um, Most of my large pots I make for my wood kiln, and they're made out of a wood-fired clay, which has definitely more grog in it than this. But I have made large pots out of this clay too and had no problem. So let me cover up my coils. Let's see. Why did you choose to use that kind of clay and not something like porcelain? This is the clay I normally use in my gas kiln, and the way they want it finished. I know the other pot that they have of mine that I want to somewhat mimic is made out of the same clay. As far as just in general using this, have used stoneware for most of my life making pots. I have made a little bit of a few pieces out of porcelain. Just porcelain is nice, very expensive to buy, and tricky to work with, but nice. All right. So let's see. A 40-inch pot would shrink down to 35. There you go. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. All right, so now again, if you weren't here before, what I'm doing, I've laid the coil on top. I've attached it together right here where I cut the two pieces at angles. Now I'm going to start on the inside and start by just smoothing this down into the bottom. You can see I've got the coil a little bit more on the inside than the outside. That's on purpose because if I lay it too far on the outside, then it's really hard to center that and bring it back in. Whereas if it's inside and I attach it and I center it, I can always bring that clay out. Just like in normal throwing, it's always easier for the clay to move outward than inward. So I kind of work with that and just learning over time. So what I do is, like I said, just go around pinching my hand. My hand is supporting the coil on the outside as well as the wall of the pot, and then using my thumb try to just get a consistent motion of how much clay I'm pulling down and pushing to attach to the base or to the thrown section below it. And so, like I said earlier, this is an 1.5 inch coil. I know some people also for their coils, I know Ben Owen, he has a custom die made that's in a bit more of like a teardrop shape. So you can attach that and it's already kind of in a vertical shape rather than just a round shape. I've never used that, but I found that this works all right for me. So do that on the inside all the way around, and then I'm going to do the same on the outside over here. So if I move that around, you may not be able to see, but I just do the same thing. Just like I said, trying to get a consistent motion. So I'm pushing a similar amount of clay every time so that when I'm finished doing this, that coil is as even as it can be. It's never going to be perfect, especially even right where I join the cut ends together. That usually ends up giving me a thick or a thin spot, but that's part of the challenge of once I start throwing this on top of the base to kind of center that and even it out. So, all right, so there's the coil added. At what height does the belly start to curve back in? Well, if I'm going for 40 inches in height, I'm probably not going to start curving back in until I hit somewhere close to 20. Obviously, it doesn't have to be 20 because the shape I'm making curves up like this and back in. I can actually unwrap this one over here, flip the camera around and show you. just do this. So that's the one I made the other day, so you can see there. But the belly on it is not quite half the height, but so the widest part being, you know, around the mid section. Um, so if I'm going for 40 inches in height, you know, probably need to be at least 18 before I start curving back in, and so that's this high. So a 36-inch ruler cut in half to give me an 18-inch ruler. All right, how will you apply the glaze to that monster pot? I will do a combination of some like slip trailed glaze in a slip bottle, just some thick glaze that I've mixed, and then I will spray on an ash glaze over top of that. So, all right, now it's time to do what I did with the previous coil, is add some water inside, on top, and outside. And then gradually start to, I'm basically squeezing together in with my left hand and applying down pressure with my right. You can get a little bit more water here. Basically trying to center this coil as a ring instead of as a solid clay ball. Trying to center that on top of what is already thrown below it. So. So it's got a little bit of a bump in there still, but and drop my sponge inside. It's got a little bit of a bump there still, but has centered up pretty nicely so far. Making you nervous, huh? It's alright. Surprisingly, I'm not nervous at all. So, not that I normally get nervous throwing pots, but doing something this tedious on a live stream would normally make me nervous, but maybe I'm just feeling pretty confident today, so I guess that's a good thing, right? Big chunk of slip rolling around there. That one has also centered up really nicely. Where I've joined it on the inside, you can kind of see there, it's a bit uneven right there where this line is. But after I pull this a time or two more, I will use my rib on the inside and a rib on the outside and kind of compress that to kind of even that up. Trying to get enough water on there that I doesn't stick as I pull a little bit more. You know what I just realized about that first coil I added, and even this one, is I don't know that I've ever made a coil pot where I didn't cut off the rim after adding a coil and then adding the next coil. And I don't think I'll have to cut off this one either. So I'm not this good. I'm just getting lucky, I think. So just getting lucky. Of course, what do they say? Luck is where, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Probably some good truth to that too. Alright, so now I'm going to use my rib on the inside. Just going to flip over and use the rounded edge here on the inside to kind of work on that spot right there. And then I'm just going to use my flexible Mud Tools rib on the outside as support while I push out on that section there. Now you can see how nicely those two have kind of melded together there. Macy's at the back door wanting in. Not my back door, but the back door of the house. Y'all probably heard that. Do I glaze the inside? No, I definitely will not glaze the inside. Something this large does not need anything on the inside. I mean, unless somebody wanted to use something this large for storage, but then again, I wouldn't. If I do that, I wouldn't put the hole in the bottom. I know some people that have made large pots, way larger, as large or larger than this, for like making, curing meat or making kimchi or stuff like that. So, you can make a piece this large and people would use it for something, but this one is for decoration. Alright. I'm going to grab, I do have this. So, I'm about 16 inches in height now, and I can't measure the width because it's wider than that. At least not with that ruler. Andrew, my apprentice, bought me this for Christmas. So, I have a 2-foot ruler now. That's a nice metal one. Across we have 19 3/4. So, and now I need to torch it. And then I guess when we do the next coil, pretty much I should reach max width and start curving back in with that next coil. Korean kimchi pots are incredible, yeah. And made considerably different than this as far as just the style of throwing and making as well, but y'all ever seen Adam Field making his large pots, his ongis? It's pretty wild to see. Yeah, this is going to be considerably bigger than the last one. But in order, the thing I told the customer was that they saw one that I had made that was shorter and fatter, and they wanted it taller and maybe a little bit skinnier. And when I made that one's in okay form overall, but in order to make it an additional, 11 inches taller, it's going to have to be considerably wider in order for the form to work out overall. So, yeah, ongi pots. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, time to torch. So let's back up this. Oh, you guys can't even see over here hardly. You can see more than it looks like. It's funny because watching the watching the live stream on my watching the chat on my iPad, I realize you can see more than it looks like on my phone when I'm looking at my phone here. I look over there and you can actually see more than what it shows me that you can see. All right. The only thing I wouldn't mind if this had a bit more of a gradual curve to it instead of just kind of the straight. Not sure I can do anything about that now, but I don't think that's going to necessarily be bad either, but I was just down there pushing pretty aggressively with this rib on the inside to just get a little bit more of a curve right in here. And in the process, it was kind of shaving off a bit of the clay on the inside because it was already pretty dry. So that's what I was just doing then, just trying to make sure it's not going in too much here, just a gradual curve. And then, like I said, with the next one, I'll kind of hit max width and start kind of curving back in. And so, yeah. All right. Hey, Patrick. Appreciate it, bud. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to ask because I can definitely do this. How can I know when's how can you know when to stop the torch? You're asking like how I tell, or how to I don't really know, other than it's better to not torch it too much. So if you have to stop and kind of feel it and then start torching some more, I kind of have just a general feel of how long I need to be torching it. I also kind of like look at the clay, see if it has any shine left to it. If the shine's going away, then also you see the clay start to steam. There's all kinds of factors. Would the smaller torch work for this purpose? Not on this large of a piece, but yes, for smaller pieces it would work, yeah. I mean, I guess it would work for this, it would just take a lot longer. I'm looking at my chat over here on my iPad in case anybody's wondering. I know that this is the one live streaming here behind me. Yeah, we love YouTube. Normally you'd have to be a grad student to get a lesson like this. Yeah, that's probably true. And you're getting it for free. Man. I should be charging, right? Doing a master class. Oh, you're welcome. Why did you change from section throwing to coils? That's a great question, Daryl. The main reason I did is because with thrown sections, if I would throw a section to add onto this, I'd have to throw a section that can match the width of this, which now being, 19, 20 inches wide, it's a lot harder to throw a section that's 19, 20 inches wide than to add a coil and then center and throw that. So, but you can do it. That Stephen Proctor I was talking about earlier, he does all thrown sections, and he does them super wide. He just has some huge bats. I actually just started trying it this way, and I found that I liked it. For doing wider pots, I like this way better. I've done some in the last year or so that were skinny, large pots that were skinnier, no wider than maybe 12, 14 inches wide at the widest point. And I would do that in front of sections because that's pretty easy to throw something that wide on a regular bat, or even just a 14-inch bat, So I'm just kind of feeling it now to see how much moisture I can feel in it. So that's one way I check. Even without bending it, you can kind of touch it and feel if my hands are dragging across the clay or if it's gliding smoothly, where a lot of the moisture is going out of it. So. Hi from North London, England. Welcome. One of my favorite trips I've ever had was to England. It's been a long time ago, but I usually just go by the stiffness I need depending on the clay. I do porcelain forms and it doesn't take very much, but I never get that big or thick. I need to try it. Yeah, the challenge with porcelain also is that it shrinks so much. I don't know how well you could torch porcelain like this and get away with it. I'm not that familiar with it. If you've done that, then yeah, go for it. I think it'd be fun to throw some giant pots like this out of porcelain. All right. And somebody did ask earlier about how thick the walls are. Yeah, like I said, probably 3/8 to a 1/2 inch thick. All right, in width, we have this one is 19 5/8, and in height we're about at 16. So, yeah, I don't know if my longest coil is long enough for this or not, but I guess I'll grab that one and we'll see. Let's see. 62 inches is your next one. Ken, you're way ahead of me. Let's see. Have you ever tried to put more moisturizer back into the area that you've dried so that you can get more movement out of the clay? Not really. That's a really tricky thing. If I were to try to add moisture back down into here, that to me would be pretty dangerous because you've already added all this weight on top of it. It'd be pretty hard to get an even amount of moisture in there as well. I got a bug in here. Yeah, oh well. He'll stay. Alright. Here's the longest coil I have, and let's hope it's long enough to do this one. And if it is, then we have successfully got... don't go too far inside. Woo, look at that. Yeah. All right. I didn't even measure these coils when I made them. I just kind of plugged out several different coils that were different lengths to try to give me, because I knew just gradually getting wider as it goes up and then starts coming back in, you need shorter coils. So there we go. We got water on the floor, about slipped. All right, let's get you guys in here again. All right. So I didn't measure how long this coil was, but it's must be longer than 62. So like I said, what I do is I'll cut the bottom coil an angle going this way, and then I'll cut the top on an angle going to kind of match it, and then piece those two together. I didn't really have anybody show me how to do that. I just kind of figured that was better than cutting them both straight up and down. That way I can kind of pick them up and piece them together like that right there. And it's kind of like doing molding. You don't ever just cut and put flush molding with flush molding. You overlap it. You do a 45 on each of them and overlap it. So. All right. I like to go around before I start smoothing it in, just kind of get an idea of how evenly it's laid on the rim, and that's on there pretty good. So let's see here. Let's just raise this up a little bit. So now, like I said, for the same process as the last ones, I just start going around, pushing in with my thumb and pushing down and away from me, and then I just go all the way around. I'm spinning the wheel with my left hand. I've got the wheel turned off, but I'm just moving the wheel head because it's going around so slowly. I just move it with my hand, rotate it slowly as I work my way around. All right, and then we do the same to the outside. Whew, and take a break because my forearms getting me. Oh. Let's see. Oh, don't you love it when your phone changes your word? I type moisture, not moisturizer. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I've never added any moisturizer to my clay as far as lotion. I guess moisturizer to clay is water, right? Alright, get that bug out of here. Come on. Probably gonna fly into my hand while I'm trying to throw. It's just a small little bug, but still. Get out of here. Okay. There we go. Alright, so just like before, but much wider and bigger now. This will be one of my last coils that I do this sitting down as well. I start to stand up after a certain point adding coils, but add some water to the inside and the out and the top. So like I said, I'm mainly squeezing together with my left hand and then pushing down with my right, basically trying to center this coil. starting to get a little dry there. Yeah, I might need to start hitting the gym for those forearms. You are not joking. I need to start hitting the gym, period. But including for my forearms, yes. Alright, there we go. You can see I usually tend to start out with it being more in than I want it, just because it's always easier to bring that clay out than back in. And also, as I'd already said, with this coil I kind of want to reach max width and start to kind of curve back in a bit. So, because now in height we are over 18 inches, so we're about that midway point. So this piece is, I think, going to end up much larger than the customer originally thought. Because seeing the one that I had at the show that they wanted one similar to, it was only a little over 2 feet tall. And they're like, hey, we want one like 2.5 to 3 feet tall. And takes considerably more clay and time to make one. When you get to a pot that's, you know, close to a foot taller than another pot. It's not usually the terms that most people work in. I wanted a foot taller than that one. I think I have an air bubble in there somewhere. I felt it, but I can pop it later. That's what the wood piles are for. That's right. Now, Andrew is are you the Andrew that works with me? Are you Andrew, or are you just an Andrew commenting all these smart comments? That's called a scarf joint. Okay, Ken, thank you. Can I get help with pinholes in my glaze? Well, there's lots of reasons that could be happening. So specific help in that would be a little tricky to tell you, especially just in a short conversation over YouTube chat. Sometimes it's the glaze, sometimes it's the clay, sometimes it's neither. It's just them working together. So I've had certain glazes that work on certain clays better than others, and so it's like, it's not that the glaze is a problem, it's not necessarily that the clay is a problem, it's just that they don't work well together. So you got to think about the fact that we're doing chemistry while making art, and it's it's the Andrew. That's right, the Andrew. Okay. I saw it earlier and I thought that, and I was gonna ask, and I'm like, that sounds like something Andrew would say. The Andrew. Let's see. Matthew, do you know Kevin Crow? He throws like what you're doing. No, I don't know him. Don't think I've heard the name either. But that doesn't mean a whole lot, because there's a lot of people, even in the ceramics world, that are probably really well known that I have no idea who they are. Alright, now I'm going to go inside with my rib and work on that joint again. I'll move my camera so you can kind of see. Let's do this. Sorry for the sudden jerk there. All right, so now you can see down inside. Let's see. I've never seen a coil added without slipping first. This has been very interesting. Can't wait to try this. Uh, the little street pottery. I hate it when I hit send before I finish my sentence. Yeah, I got you. Justice just said, "Is that our Andrew? The Andrew?" Yes. There you go. Are there any ceramicists that you find inspiring? Oh, definitely. Some for very different reasons. Um, I don't really watch a lot of other like pottery videos or content because I do enough of it myself. But if I see them like Mundo Bang, I mean every time I see a video of him throwing, I'm just like that's just insane. Love watching anybody who's excellent at any craft, but especially the one that I'm also in. Yes, he's pretty amazing. Seeing, let's see, Jose Mariscal does crystalline work mainly, but his throwing skill is pretty amazing too. Tortoise is another one on Instagram that I'll see every once in a while. I don't follow a lot of people on Instagram on social media just because I can't digest that much content. I don't want to get trapped looking at social media all the time. Or not trapped. I just, if you can never reach the bottom of your feed of new things, then you're probably following too many people. It's like, that's just my rule. But Hammerly Ceramics is one that does, things that are not even anywhere close to what I do and probably never will do. But I find it really interesting and intriguing. Also, his business mindset I really like, so that's a whole different avenue. I'm friends with John the Potter, so keep up with him on a regular basis. Yeah, there's a lot of them I like for a lot of different reasons. So. Local potters here in Seagrove, definitely. Ben Owen has become a good friend of mine, and he's an amazing potter and a great human being. Very humble for how successful he is. It's turning out so beautiful. You make it seem so easy when it's not. Thanks. Probably helping that I'm talking to you all while I'm doing it too. Let's see. I was supposed to meet Adam and Moon 2 weekends ago, but I got sick. Oh, jeez, man. Oh, damn. Corey, that's horrible, man. Sorry to hear that. Hey, Carl. Is this the Carl from Ohio that I know? I'm assuming so. Speed demon on the wheel. Leadfoot. Recommendations on buying a pug mill for the first time. Yeah, pug mills. You don't need a giant one. Most people don't need a giant pug mill, even like the giant one that I have. They're all. I'm a huge fan of the Venco that I have, but before that, I used mostly Bluebirds. But you know, there are several companies out there that make them, and I honestly couldn't tell you which one is the best one to go for. Um, I'll tell you, I'm happy with what I got. So. It is the same Carl. I have a great way of saying these things on live stream. It's like, is this the Andrew, the Carl? uh, I've shown off that picture several times, Carl, of all the pots. Carl was in my first workshop that I did last year in Pennsylvania, where I taught how to make uh, uh, two-piece pots with thrown sections. There's a thick spot right there. I want to pull it because I don't want it to dry unevenly, being thicker than the other parts there. And everybody in the class, it was so nice to know that everybody in the class was like, man, this is the best pot I've ever made. So that's good to know when you've just taught your first workshop and everybody had a good time and got great results. So. And Ruel, the little street pottery, joins coils and slabs at an angle. Yeah, yeah. There's like I said, there's lots of ways to do it. This is not the only one. This is just what I've found that works well for me. So I'm trying to go down in there a little bit below this belly and add a little bit more shape to a spot that I see. So. Let's see. Definitely on a budget. Thanks, Matthew. I'll look into Bluebird. Yeah, they're all expensive. That's the only downside, and they're really hard to find used because once people have them, they don't really want to get rid of them. Because if they've spent that much on it, either they're using it or they're like, I'm going to use that eventually. So. All right. I'm going to step back and look at it for a second while it's spinning. All right, one thing I want to do is I want to bring this out a little bit at the very top because as I torch it, it's going to pull in even more, and I don't want it to come in too quickly there because I'm kind of going for gradual rounding and then kind of come up. I should grab a measuring tape and get an idea of how tall 40 inches is as well. let's turn that off. So from there we're only up to 20. So 40 is all the way up to here. That's crazy. Okay. Oh man. A little insane. Alright, now it's time to torch. Alright, let's see. John the Potter is the one who mentioned you on his channel. That's how I became a follower and subscriber to your channel. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. You'd get a pug mill if you had space for it. Yeah, I tell you, that past, I mean, to me, it goes wheel, kiln, pug mill, in order of importance. I don't have, I mean, you know, but that also depends on how many pots you plan on throwing. If you're not going to throw thousands and thousands of pots, a pug mill is not nearly as important, but it still would be, if you've ever thrown clay run through a pug mill, it's really nice compared to just out of a bag or even hand wedged. Now there are people that can wedge amazing, but for longevity of my body, I love having a pug mill so that I can save from all that stress of wedging. So, all right, we're gonna torch now. I appreciate it, Carl. Very kind of you. No, I still haven't had to trim the top edge. I probably could on this one. And maybe I should now that I look at it from down here. Because there is a little bump there in this one, and it probably would, it wouldn't be a bad idea to trim it now. I was trying to fix it by using my rib on it a second ago, but I think cutting it off would be a better idea. Yeah, it'd be nice to say I made the whole thing without having to trim, but once again, I'm not going to get any awards for that, but if I make a nice pot, I'll be much happier than just being able to say, well, I didn't have to, I never had to trim the top. I don't need the ego boost as much as I need a nice looking pot when I finish. So let me put it that way. You won't say anything, all right. It also gets easier the higher I get, as far as like when I start coming back in. So it seems like I gain height quicker, or I can actually, you know, it doesn't take as long to torch because it's not as big around. So now that I'm at the midway point and going to start coming back in, it'll seem at least to speed up a bit. Let's see. How many hours do you estimate you will have in just the build of this pot? These large ones usually take me anywhere from 2.5 to 4 hours probably. Alright, Daryl, good to see you. Take care. So, but then also I'll wait and tomorrow I'll put handles on it. So, but just throwing it, yeah, you probably, we've been going for how long now? 120, we've been going for 2 hours, so, yeah. This one's going to have more like 3 to 4 in it probably. What is your opinion on when you feel like a potter needs a pug mill? Well, I think every potter probably it's a good idea for you to learn how to wedge, because it's not a bad skill to know. But that all probably really comes down to how much money somebody has to spend on a pug mill, and then how many pots they're throwing. You know, if you're going to process a lot of reclaim or not. Some people don't even process much reclaim, or they just give the reclaim away to other people and they don't even process it, so then you don't need it as much. But even clay that comes right out of the bag, I run it through my pug mill before I ever throw it. So. Yeah, I have a friend here. I'll tell you, I have a friend locally that just started playing around with pottery on the side. Got pretty good within just a couple years of throwing, then started taking orders for custom mugs, and now he bought a new kiln earlier, either late last year or earlier this year, and then started looking for a pug mill because he realized that the amount of orders he was taking, it would just save him a lot of time instead of wedging up all those clay balls. And now he's at a point this year that he's like, I can't take any more custom orders for the rest of this year, because he said, I have monthly orders that will keep me busy all the way through like the end of October or into November. And I was like, so for him it was a judgment call, but then again too, his business completely has paid for it by the profit that he's made on the side throwing pots. So he works full time and then does pottery on the side. So. It's not easy to know when to spend $2,500 on a piece of equipment like that. And that's probably minimum. I'm going to torch that a little bit more. All right, we got 18 and a half. That was about a 60-inch one, right? Yeah. Let's see. Good night, Rebecca. Make sure you say hi if you come, so I'll remember it's you. I use a torch like that for a burner on my DIY kiln. Those things get noisy. Yeah, they can. Alright, I'll get my largest coil I have again and see if that's long enough. My longest coil, I should say. This is the last really long coil I have. I hope it fits all the way around. If not, I don't know if I should plug another one and it fits good. Okay, I don't have to worry about that. We're going to start coming back in and hopefully one of these other ones will be long enough. For what we get to next. Let's see. Yeah, that's an 1.5 inch thick coil, so, and probably 60 some inches long, so. Alright, let's see here. How much is instinct and how much is conscious effort? That's a good question. A lot of instinct by now, for sure. But on something like this that's a bit more challenging, there's a bit more conscious effort, but and also just things that I've learned from previous large pieces that I got to keep in mind as I'm building this. Most of my throwing nowadays is more from instinct than it is conscious effort. But I spent years thinking a lot about it, and also before going into making things, usually I've thought a lot about it. So thank you. Yeah, I think it's coming together great. I'm very happy with it so far. Do I do sketches before executing the build? No. This one I did not. I don't really sketch pots hardly at all. I sketched a few at the end of last year, and then made a couple that were like my sketches, but I rarely ever do that. But I'll look at the reference, like the one that the customer saw that they liked the look of but wanted it taller and skinnier. I've referenced that image a few times to make sure it's kind of in my brain. And oh, hey Kathy, is this Catherine Weatherington that I know, and you're just going by Kathy now? If so, good to see you. Been a long time. All right, so do I keep a journal? No, I don't do that either. There's a lot of things I should do. Add that to the list of like going to the gym. Things that I should do, but I don't do, or I'm not doing yet. All right, now I'm going to stand up for this one. Let's see, let me turn this off for a second. Some. Yeah, you do sketches for sculptures. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Pat, the pottery, the spring celebration of spring event is 14th through the 16th, which is not this coming weekend, but the next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that'll be my kiln opening and that. Oh yeah, Kathy, good to see you as always. Hope you're well, and thanks for following along. So this adds another level of trickiness, because now having to stand up and do it may have a little bit less stability, but then kind of really lean into it. And by now, by having the bottom of it so nice and centered, it's not that difficult to center the section I'm working on top of it. You'll be going through North Carolina on Thursday and Friday. This Thursday and Friday. I mean, if anybody's ever close by to Seagrove and wants to come by, just let me know ahead of time. I don't keep regular hours, but I take appointments for my studio, so if people want to come by and visit and shop. I think I'll have to end up cutting this one off again by the feeling of it right now. I thought I had it really good and centered, but we'll see by the time I finish pulling it here. Yeah, definitely. Send me an email. Yeah, we'll definitely have to cut that one off. But I've pulled all that unevenness to the surface so that I can cut it off. So that's good. It's a good chance that the fact that I had to cut this one off is because the unevenness of the one below it, um, which is, like I said, not a big problem, but there was a little bit of unevenness in it, and then it just probably carried over into this one. So. Here, we'll back this guy up so you can kind of see the whole thing as I'm working on it. Yeah, that's shape's coming together pretty nicely. Let's see. I'd love to visit the Carolinas just because of the rich potty tradition and food, of course, and people. That was in. Shelly, have I decided whether I'll make more crystalline? Pretty sure I've decided not to. Yes. That's whew. I love the results that I got, but man, the how tedious that process was by the time I finished, it was pretty. I don't know. Well, I could try it in my electric kiln. I don't know that I'll do any more in my gas kiln because I don't know. But my kind of pet project for this year and at least for the next few months, well, maybe not the next few months. I got a wood fire again in June. Based on the schedule for the year, it's going to come up earlier than the previous couple years. But my other pet project is that fast fire wood kiln. I would like to modify and get going. So that's kind of the thing that I would like to work on versus more crystalline. So let's see. Are you going to let it dry right there on the wheel? No, well, I'll let it dry overnight on the wheel, and then I'll put handles on it tomorrow, and then I will be able to move it though. Good thing is once I put a little bit of clay under the bat to make it stick, but once I kind of pop that loose, I can actually just grab a hold, because this is already stiffened up from drying it. I can actually just grab a hold of the base and kind of lift it up and kind of hug it to get it up off the wheel instead of having to pick up the bat. If you were to do that clay, would it be oh, if I were to do that clay, would it be slinging everywhere? Yeah. I'll be happy with the 3 I have been. Yeah, Shelly, you have some of the very few. I have a couple that I kept for myself, so I think I might have 3 left. I had some at the show that I was just at, but 25 to 30 pounds when complete. Oh, as far as like when it's dry or fired, no, it'll be more than that. But I haven't been adding the weight of the coils up as I went. I was gonna do that, but. Yeah, fired. I don't know. Can you do a Stanley Cup clay version if my New York Rangers go all the way? Woo. A clay version of the Stanley Cup. Yeah, that'd be a big cup of coffee, for sure. Yeah, yeah, Kathy, once, most clay is about 30% water weight, so even if I used, let's say, 80 pounds, by the time it was finished, it would probably lose at least 20% of that in weight. Of course, you're adding glaze to it, but say 20 to 30% of the weight it would lose from throwing to finished. So Pat, I will do some spraying, but I'll also use some thick glaze that I have that's kind of like in a slip consistency. So. If you used it for coffee, it would need a child safety label on it. Yes. Yeah, I was able to even that one up pretty good by cutting it off and then even looking at the thickness as it goes around. That one evened up a bit better, so the next coil we should probably be back on schedule for not having to really cut off the sections. Let me put you guys over here, maybe that'll be a better. I got another idea for the camera that might work if we flip this around, and then I don't think, oh no, I probably can't do the zoom. Nope. I was going to do the zoom that's like the really super wide angle zoom, so you guys could see everything while I'm working on it, but there we go. I've tried your knot trimming technique, but not on a hydro bat. Boy, it saves time. All right, Pat, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it depends on what kind of bat you throw on. If you threw on like a tile, I've seen people doing that. I don't think that would work so well, but throwing on like masonite or hardboard bats, it works out really well. An overhand stand looking down in. Yeah, I could actually do that. Maybe we'll rig that up in a second. Trying to rig up the overhead camera. All right. Just need to attach this. We're almost there. There we go. Look at that. Overhead view. Yeah, how many pottery YouTube channels are you going to watch where you can say, hey, I want a view from overhead, and within a minute you got an overhead view. Oh, man. All right. So now, let's see here. Probably need to torch that just a little bit more. It does have a little bit extra thickness there than I think it needs. All right. Now we're back down to about 16 in width, which I believe was 52. So, does my studio have good ventilation? Well, I had the door open for a while. Did I shut that? I guess I did. Yeah, it's not bad. Let's see, we've got 18, 36, 36 and 11 is 47. Woo. I don't have one that's 52. I don't have a coil that is 52 inches. So I'm probably going to have to splice this one twice. Oh, that's so close. So close. Wonder if this back one is any longer. I think it's the same length as the other one. How tall are you going to go with it? I need to go about 40 inches tall. Yeah, the steam coming out of the pot is pretty neat, isn't it? Now that I've got don't really want to join these both being flat, but it's, I think, the best option I got. I'm actually going to pick this up and roll it over so that I can work on this bottom side of this joint that I just made. Being flat like that, flat on flat, I wanted to kind of see how that joined together there. There we go. All right. Do I like throwing at night? I like throwing anytime, but I probably do a lot of throwing at night, especially when I'm in a time crunch and I'm getting close to a wood firing. Sometimes I throw day and night, but anyhow. Am I close to Charlotte? Yeah, hour and a half. One heck of a kung fu grip there, huh? Yeah. Cover up the rest of my coils. like I said, the working on this will give your forearm a workout. You can see a little bit of a thin spot going around. That's where I joined the two together, but I should be able to compress that. If I can compress that good enough, kind of mitigate that thinness. You kind of still see it going around there. See, if I didn't torch that section below it really well, I go to put that much pressure, it would buckle the section underneath it. So there's that thin section showing back up. I thought I had it compressed good enough, but that's where I put those two pieces together. I probably should have pugged that one longer. That one's giving me a fit. Yeah, that's kind of annoying, but couldn't have all been perfect, right? A bit too much to expect. Alright, let's see what we have in height now. We are up to a little over 26. 14 more inches? That's crazy. Okay, I don't know. I mean, I don't have to get to 40. They wanted somewhere between 2.5 and, well, 30 and 36 inches, so 2.5 and 3 feet tall, finished. But let's see. Yeah. The widest part is between 18 and 20 inches there, so it's working out. And I do need to come back in, and then the top comes up and flares out. So, oh man. We travel close to Charlotte several times a year. Any good potter's store worth visiting? In Charlotte, I don't know. There are some potters in Charlotte. As far as stores, I know there's a gift shop at the Mint Museum in Charlotte that has a couple potters in it, but there's got to be more stores than that in Charlotte for sure. I don't know of them, sorry. Do you sell these large pots for corporate installations mostly? No, actually, Pat, most of these are sold to individual customers. At least the ones I've done so far. Let's see. You're welcome, Kathy. I think my evening is done. Thank you for sharing your time and knowledge with us. Good night. Good night. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. I think it's falling down. The weight of it's causing it to droop a little bit. There we go. All right, I guess we're torching now. Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, for supply. Oh, gotcha. Supplies, Justin. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant to buy pottery. Yeah, there's. I think Carolina Clay Connection is in Charlotte. I've purchased clay from there. I'm sure they have other supplies as well. I'm pretty sure it's called Carolina Clay Connection. Uh, all right. Good night, Pat. Thanks for being here. Yeah, it's getting close. I mean, I've got, I mean, it's only 26 out of the around 40 inches that I need to go in height, but that means 14 more inches in height. But that's coning in more, and then the top that I'm gonna put on it kind of comes in. I can show you what the finished piece needs to look like, but it's basically gonna come in at the top and then have a neck and flare back out with a really thick, chunky rim. Whew. No, it wasn't connection. It was my phone got too hot. Sitting in the, my phone got too hot because of the torch heating up. I was wondering about that. So the heat rising from above the pot made it get too hot. So, anyhow. But it just, you know, thankfully the phones, they just kind of stop working before you, like, destroy them. But, anyhow. Whew. So, yeah, we're back, but took a minute. I had to... Yeah, I thought about it when I first put it up there. I thought, when I do this coil, I wonder if it's going to get too hot. But, so. And it did. So, yeah. Lost some viewers there, but it's all good. They'll come back if they want to. All right, there we go. Now, it was cool while it lasted, yeah. No, it was, and if I wasn't torching, it wouldn't be that bad. Wouldn't be that bad of a deal. So, Here, let's see. Get you guys out here. You can see the whole thing. There, before I moved it up there, I was probably somewhere down here, adding those couple coils. Now we have 12. You're welcome, Kathy. It was a pretty neat view while it lasted. You're right. Yeah, Kathy, I wish John would come back. That was a lot of fun. I I asked him about it. We were trying to plan on it for this year, and then just didn't. Or was that last year? Either way, we were talking about it at some point, and it just didn't work out. You know, I think it was last year. Yeah, because but 3 kids, 3 coffee shops, pottery business. But I don't know. I believe he's getting a gas kiln now. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to go to Minnesota. But don't know. Danielle will be too excited about that. Yeah, John went and did a wood firing in Minnesota, but the results that he got weren't nearly as nice as what he got out of my kiln, and although it was closer to home, he had to pay money to get his pots in the kiln, and he had to work a whole lot more hours or a whole lot more shifts. So it was, yeah, he wasn't nearly as happy with the results. But you know, I know how that goes. Let's see how tall we got here. Okay, we're only at 30 inches. Goodness gracious. I don't think we're going to hit 40 with the shape, but I don't think we need to either. So, why not just use an electric heat gun? Yeah, the torch is more fun, but also I think it's more effective. Trying to decide now if I'm going to do a coil or a thrown section to get you know, another six, 8 inches. If I get 8 inches, that'll be 38. That would be good. I think I might try to do a thrown section instead of a coil. Seven and 3/8. I'm gonna switch to this wheel here and throw a thrown section to go on it. All right, Brian. Yeah, Brian, thanks for being here. Sorry I couldn't get it finished before you had to leave, but all right, I have 6 pounds here that we're gonna throw here. Make the last section. I'm basically going to throw this and then flip it over on top of what's there. So I need to open this all the way down to the wheel head. Just make like a cylinder with no bottom, and then pull the walls up and make the top the width of what I've got over there, and then I can flip this over on top and throw the two together. That's a good width. I just need a needle tool. Not sure why I'm having air bubbles in my pugged clay, but could have not put enough in when I was pugging out the coils, and that left it sucking a little bit of air. Get a screwdriver or a knife. This will work. All right. A lot of moving parts around here. The air bubbles, more than pits, it would, I may torch this just a little bit. The air bubbles can cause cracking or exploding pots, if severe enough, but if you fire slow enough, it's not that big a deal, but it's just kind of a pain while throwing. I forgot I need to have the wheel going. Yeah, the neck's probably a little long, but no, you guys are welcome. Thanks for sticking around so long. It's been a while. Whew. 11 o'clock, 7:30 to 11. 3.5 hours, right? Getting tired of talking, so I just focusing on finishing. I think that's probably about it. Oh. Anyway, whew. Yeah, I definitely am a little bit tired. So, heat the top at all? Probably not. I'll probably just leave it uncovered all night, and then tomorrow I'm gonna put two handles, one on each side, some pretty chunky handles that'll kind of come down to maybe around there on the shoulder. You know, just put my finger into it. probably wouldn't be a bad idea to torch it. I might torch it a little bit, but I'll go ahead and end the live stream. But glad you guys are still here. I know there was a lot more people watching than were commenting, but and had the slight interruption from the heat. But anyway, here you can. So that's that one. This was the first one I made. That was just a little bit smaller, and then that one. So, but anyway, let's see. Anybody else? Thank you guys for all the comments. Corey, good to see you. Tang, have a good night. Yeah, Andrew, hey. Yeah, you'll get to see it in person next week, right? And we'll, yeah, get it fired sometime. But anyway, thanks, Nick, Kathy, Karen, you guys are all welcome. Appreciate you, and we'll see you. I'll try to get a video out sometime soon, a regular YouTube video, but I thought, hey, if nothing else, I'd get a live stream in here, and 3.5 hours long. That ought to make up for missing a couple videos here and there. So, all right, you guys have a good night, and if you missed any parts of it, you can go back and watch it because it'll be on my it'll be on the YouTube. So, all right, we'll see you guys soon. You guys have a good night. See ya.